welcome back to the Sounds of Stadia podcast for episode number 142 of your weekly show where we round up all of your gaming and Stadia news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games or up there on your podcast preference of choice in the clouds. We've got a great show lined up for you this week talking about all of the fallout from the Summer Games Fest hosted by Jeff Keighley, some new games rated for Stadia such as Saints Row, breakdowns of all the other updates from some Ubisoft titles, some Capcom announcements, some release dates, some reviews of an exclusive game that should have been coming, and much, much more. But before I get into all that, let me introduce you to myself. I'm Chris, your host for the day, alongside the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
You know, I spent all morning just trying to catch up on all the gaming news. I feel like I'm, for the last, fortnight, if not longer, I've been just, out the loop with everything going on. Personally, we've been away. I've been away with work. So it's which is why I've actually... I haven't been on any Helix Cloud Games live content in about a month at this point.
That's terrible. We need to change that. We're going to do that today because we're back, folks. No pre-recorded content. This is all of us live. Like you said, Richie, I'm getting back to the loop of things.
This is pre-recorded. This is literally
You know what I mean? We're recording it live for the people out there watching and listening along. Of course, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the content we do as we get back into some sense of routine and normality here on the Helix Cloud Games channel. Weekly live streams will resume this week as normal. We didn't have one this past week with both myself and Richie being away with work-related things. We weren't actually at home able to record or capture or go live with anything. Adult life sometimes does get in the way as a gamer, as all of you wonderful folks are out there, but as I said, we've got a great show. Live streams will resume. CloudQuest will get back. Will still come out as per usual. But thank you to all the people who stay supporting us, who follow us on all channels. Twitter, of course, at Helix Cloud Games. Across all socials, we are there, Richie. We've got an amazing Discord, which has still been chatting away. That's been the great thing to actually see. In our absence, whilst we've been busy, I've seen our Discord chat pop off with all the Summer Games Fest reveals, chatting about what their favourite game was, back and forward, about what might be coming, what might not be coming to Stadia, the fallout from Logo Gate 5.78, whatever rendition of that we're up to now. But we've got plenty to talk about. Can't wait to get into it. Got a fantastic show. So thank you again to everyone who's watching along at home. A special shout out to all of our Helix Heroes, you wonderful folks who support us that little bit further by clicking join below. 99p, littlest support barrier you can possibly get into. You get content early, you get stickers, you get early access, all that bunch of fun stuff. But Richie, I want a nice, quick, fast-paced show today because we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to get through. I've not really been playing many games because of work. I'm guessing you're the same this last week?
Yeah, the only game I've been playing is Legends Arceus, which I finally finished. I jumped back into that game after I finished, I think I finished Ace, and it was kind of the perfect game for that period, this mini period in my life where I've just had very little time because it was one of them, I can just jump in for half an hour here, half an hour there, an hour here. Mm-hmm. And because it's on my Switch, I chucked it in my bag when I went away with work for 3 days.
Yeah.
So it was just the perfect game for that. But I've completed it. I have all the 242 Pokemon that available in that game.
Wow, got to catch them all.
So, yeah. I caught them all.
And you did, success.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah, similar to me, I took my Razer Kishi with me with the intent to play stuff, and then I just ended up watching Stranger Things, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then any spare time I actually had away from where I was staying was drinking too much alcohol once again. It was just Poland 2.0. It just continued on, and I'm thinking I need to actually we had in the UK, so yeah, we had Poland, then we had the Queen's Jubilee weekend, 4-day bank holiday weekend, and then I was straight into this works event, so I don't have anything in the pipeline, I don't think. I want a nice peaceful, I want to go to the cinema, watch Jurassic World Dominion, chill at home, watch some TV, and not spend any money. give me some more pro games. Let me just play those.
I watched Chippendale, by the way.
Oh, you did? What did you think?
Yeah. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
A good movie, wasn't it? Not too long.
Quite. Not too long. A nice light movie to have on in the background when you're doing something else. I enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Well, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here. Just like you will hear all of your news. Richie, give us the rundown and introduce us to the
super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
The news. It keeps coming. As we said, we knew we were going to have some news, for better or for worse, Richie, this week with Summer Games Fest happening. It was either going to be an amazing blowout list of games coming to the platform or not.
What we expected.
We expected the lesser, which is why I don't think this year round I'm that bothered.
I'm not as... I'm kind of generally a bit pessimistic with Stadia at the moment in general, but I'm not that... I'm not coming out of Summer Games Fest disappointed that there wasn't much for Stadia.
Yeah.
I'm a bit disappointed in Summer Games Fest as opening night, but that's nothing to do with Stadia.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We didn't actually cover it on the channel, but due to the work commitments that we just mentioned, because traditionally we would watch it along with Jeff K, and we'd react with you guys in the chat, and we'd have a chuckle about it and stuff. But yeah, I think being detached from it, we were
both in hotel rooms in different parts of the country.
Yeah, and I only caught up with the news the day after, so I didn't have that kind of in the moment reaction. And actually, I felt like that's actually been good because it's detached me from it. I'm not coming to this episode in some kind of preconception of a mood, which I should have, but we'll get into all that. The first story of the week I kind of wanted to jump into. It was at Summer Games Fest, but reading from our good friends over at Stadia Source, Saints Row, the reboot, the reimagined one. Jeff Keighley was, of course, on the stage this past week talking about the imminent launch of Saints Row 2022. I guess that its title's just Saints Row. It launches on August 23rd, and out of nowhere, it appears to have been rated for Stadia by the ESRB people. Now, we will caveat this, ladies and gentlemen, that an ESRB rating does not necessarily mean the game is coming out on any particular platform. If you remember, Richie, we did have an ESRB rating long ago for the likes of Borderlands
Mafia
2 and the Handsome Jack collection and Mafia Definitive Collection, which we won't go into. We won't go into that right now. It's not the time or the place. But yeah, Jeff came up on stage, showed us some more stuff about it. We didn't see a logo, but a rating does usually go a little way to show that the developers/publishers are reaching out to these rating boards to make sure that the game is covered to release on said platform.
Well, from my understanding is the publisher has to send a build of the game to the ratings platform on that platform in order to get a rating. So there is a version of Saints Row on Stadia, or maybe it's on the Immersive stream. There is a version there on the Stadia hardware. See. So my understanding of the ratings board is the developers are held accountable if they don't match. So they basically submit the description of the title and the build to them. There's no one actually who works at ESRB who plays the game and tests it. It's if it comes back and turns out like there's a giant penis in it and they haven't disclosed that, they'll get fined and sued and held there's
accountable.
A giant penis in it.
Undoubtedly. But I'm saying, like, if they submitted a Ben 10, like if Outright submitted a child's game, there's no one playing Ben 10 looking for giant penises in it. They're literally...
I thought as part of the application they'd have to submit a build of the game, even if the ratings board aren't going... I mean, that's the way if I was a ratings board... Even if I'm not checking out the actual build of the game, I'd still want it.
Yeah.
So if I hear anything, I can then look at it immediately without having to request and stuff.
See, I just don't think they've got that. They're not like qualified. They're not game testers. I think they are just like an Ofcom regulator who just holds them accountable if it does come out. So in the ESRB rating, to give some clarity, it says content descriptors: blood, nudity, sexual themes, strong language, use of drugs and violence. Interactive elements, that's where Stadia comes into it. So it's got PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Stadia, Series X and PS5. And the rating summary is: this is a third-person action game in which players follow the story of a criminal organisation's rise to power in a fictional city. Players explore an open-world environment, engaging in combat, etc., etc. So again, it goes a long way because there's someone out there, the publisher, getting it rated in case it was to launch. It's a weird one because it comes back to probably you and me and the rest of the community for Stadia, in that, do we just expect like anything at all this year now? We're what, six and a bit months into the year, and we've got drip-fed small indie games and all the titles.
Well, I'm now expecting Saints Row, and because we have the rating now, I'm expecting it to be day and date now. Okay. Do we know, is this just the first time that the game was rated and Stadia was part of it, or is Stadia being rated after the others?
That's a very good question. I don't think news websites really cover ratings unless there's something new, which I think because Saints Row's had it's been due out on these platforms since day one. It was always going to come to PlayStation, Xbox and such, so it's not got a rating for Switch.
Let's go hypothetically then. Let's say it already had the ratings for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and then it's since been rated for Stadia. That just suggests to me that the Stadia port is lagging behind the other builds a bit, which certainly kind of makes sense in terms of how I'd assume their workflow goes.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've got this rating suggests to me that there is a build of the game working on Stadia, to a degree. It could be an absolute buggy mess, but there is a build of Saints Row on Stadia, and I would expect it in August alongside the others.
Well, we don't want to get speculative, but the platform holders, the owners, leave us no choice when you cover it as a Stadia podcast, and they give us no actual communication or whatsoever. But yeah, we said early on, we've had 2 Saints Row games in the last year come out and go on pro as well. So there's a precedence for the titles and the developer working in tandem with Google Stadia. Volition and Deep Silver, of course, part of THQ Nordic and the Embracer Group. Multiple games on the platform. We've just not seen anything new day and date in a long, long time. So we're kind of almost conditioned at this point to just expect the least. And then you won't be disappointed, as they say. If you expect disappointment, Richie, you can't be disappointed, right?
I mean, I think this could be a massive hit on Stadia, actually, because I know one of the biggest games, if you go into any Facebook group or Reddit or Twitter and ask people what games they want to see come to Stadia, you can guarantee to be hit with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, definitely.
Saints Row might scratch that itch for a lot of people.
It might do. And it's a whole reimagining, it's a reboot, so it's a good point to get in on the franchise if you've not played one before. And it literally is Grand Theft Auto re-embodied, so...
Yeah, I've always took it as like if Grand Theft Auto was a bit more comical, a bit more slapstick.
Mm-hmm. And that's saying a lot with GTA as well.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait and find out. Hopefully we can get some announcement, because arguably this will be the biggest game to drop on the platform this year, if it does come out.
Potentially Pandora could be argued to be bigger than this.
Yeah, I would say that, but we still don't know if that's got a concrete date for this year from Ubisoft yet. But we'll surely hear about that when Ubisoft decide to get around to sharing some details on upcoming titles. But I'm excited for Saints Row. I do hope it comes. I'd like to kind of see the narrative change a little bit now, if we can just get one tentpole title to look forward to. And if it does launch, it just goes back to, why don't they just tell us? We're going to get into... Actually, we'll move into it. Story number 2 is Summer Games Fest happened. Jeff Keighley got up on stage. He did his thing. Everyone across the planet, everyone from the whole games industry has got together in this kind of E3 time frame where E3 isn't a thing anymore. Jeff's doing his best to pull it all together, of course. Host of the Game Awards. He's trying to pull on all these strings that he's got, all these relationships he has in the industry, to get out there and just sing praises of the gaming world. And I think he does a fantastic job. Overall show aside, this is where these things get shown off. And for the third year in a row now? This will be the third... Oh, no, he didn't do one, did he? It's only existed for 2 years, if I'm right.
Yeah. I think it was 2020.
Well, yeah, 2020 happened, lockdown happened, everyone shut down. I don't think he did one in 2020, because that was like... Everyone went into lockdown, like the March. I don't think he'll have had time to pull something together. Yeah. Everyone did their own thing through 2020. That's when we got Ubisoft Forwards appearing. Stadia Connects, remember those? They were a thing back in 2020. And everyone kind of had their own little things. PlayStation said they weren't going to be at E3 anyway. They started doing the State of Play videos, which keep coming out. Nintendo doing Nintendo. And then, 2021, I think we got the first one. We reacted to it on the... Yeah, we would have covered it on the channel. So, we did last year's.
Yeah.
Then this year's. And for another year running... Disclosure before we even get into all the breakdown of the stories that came out of it. Stadia, no presence whatsoever again. And even though the Microsoft Xbox One isn't until a Sunday, so for clarity's sake, we're recording this on Saturday the 11th, and there is a Xbox showcase. Not that we cover Xbox really on the channel, however, there might be some third-party deals that come out, but...
It's why we won't be going into how our predictions went as well, because we did our predictions episode of CloudQuest covered the month of June, rather than just the opening night, so we'll be dealing with that in July. Little bit of time
to go. But I think more importantly, we got a slew of announcements ranging from AAA down to indie. We'll cover them anyway, because we are a gaming podcast too. And there will always be speculation on some of these titles may or may not come to the platform. I very well hope that a lot of them do. There's nothing to say they can't, except for Google getting out there and making those relationships with the developers and publishers. And with low-key porting, Richie, you'd like to think this is going to make it faster. So, games listed though. Jeff stood on stage, went through a few things. What I'd like to do probably is just do a quick yes or no hit take, because there's so many things that were announced, Richie. If we think... I don't want to go no, because realistically they all could. They all have potential. But I watched Summer Games Fest after the fact. You said you watched bits of it, you skipped through some of it because overall it was quite it felt like a repetitive affair.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I watched about an hour of it and I was bored. Usually these sort of things oh my god, what's next? I was just generally a bit bored. So I switched it off, got on with my life, and then I just read through all the different stuff and watched all the trailers independent. So like I didn't watch the whole thing. There was a lot of repetitive stuff. There was, very, very sci-fi horror focused.
Yeah, it's kind of when Breath of the Wild happened, and then everything that followed was that kind of artistic, stylized choice of color palette. But yeah, this one, by the time I'd seen, I think 3 or 4 games that were set in space with horror elements in first person, it was
most of the first hour was that, and I was like, just not interested in these like things like Callisto Protocol looks like an amazing game that I'm not going to play.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I'm glad they're getting ahead of Dead Space, but yeah, for me, what really bugs me about these shows is when they show extensive gameplay. And the gameplay is just shooting, throw a grenade, move left, move right, and it's I could be watching. Not in Call of Duty. There was a lot of games that showcased off that it felt it was just the same. I'm watching the same thing, but it's not fun. Watching gameplay isn't fun. That should be saved for a separate YouTube video to go live after the show.
I think for me, for the perfect reveal trailer, we'll have elements of story and setting, but also a little bit of gameplay, so you kind of go, oh, I kind of get a gist of where you're going with that, but not. Like, Call of Duty basically showed an entire level.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the full level. Show me a bit of the combat. Show me a bit of how it... it's Call of Duty. Like, it'll be the best Call of Duty you've played.
Yeah, so there were a lot of announcements to come out of it initially. Starting up, they launched the show with Street Fighter 6. We saw that was launched. No Street Fighters previously on Stadia, Richie, coming from Capcom. So we have that pre-existing relationship. We're actually lacking fighters on Stadia right now. We've obviously got Mortal Kombat still, Street Fighter. It's no longer exclusive to PlayStation. This particular one that has been confirmed by Capcom since. What do you think, Sega? Not Sega. Why did I say Sega? Capcom. What do you think, Street Fighter?
I'm going to go with a yes actually on this because there's a story later in the show we'll get to that I don't want to really spoil too much. That shows the developing relationship of Capcom and Google. So I'm going to either go a yes, or I think we'll definitely see this in the immersive stream.
Right. Yep.
In some fashion. But I'm going to go with a yes.
Okay.
I want to be optimistic. I think it's possible. I think Google and Capcom are talking. Bring it.
Bring it, indeed. Bring them all, of course, but
bring everything.
This one is more feasible. Next up, we got Aliens Dark Descent. Sorry, I would say Alien. I don't think it's been a good while since they actually dropped a game with the S, the Aliens. But Aliens Dark Descent also announced another spooky horror again. Sci-fi horror is the flavor of the month, it would appear. Then ironically,
when the IP's Alien, you can't really do much.
That is true. But... Yeah, I don't want a sitting building simulator with Alien. You building.
I do. That'd be awesome.
That would be fun. But
you build a space station.
You got to look after it while aliens keep breaking down, destroying stuff. We got another look at the Callisto Protocol, which is the kind of spiritual successor to Dead Space. Ironically, coming out just a few months before the Dead Space remake. So I think clever timing for them getting ahead of the curve, because I'm sure if they came after Dead Space, they might have you kind of missed your window a little bit there. So, but yeah, loads of aliens on a spaceship, loads of mood lighting and stuff being hunted down. Very, very Dead Space.
I've heard other people make this take as well, and I completely agree. I think one of the problems with Callisto Protocol here was that it being already shown at PlayStation State of Play a couple of days earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm watching this again.
Yeah, we're back here again. And I get the same feeling for Call of Duty. Call of Duty always has its presence every year at something. It's nice to see because it is it's the highest AAA quality you could possibly get out of a shooter. Yeah. Modern Warfare 2, we're going back to the remaster. I feel like I got my fill of that when I played it as a teenager or when early 20s, back when it came out.
It's a new game, isn't it, this Modern Warfare? Or is it actually...
It's like a reimagining remake, whatever it's called. Because they did Modern Warfare last time round. And,
I know they've done a lot of stuff where they've expanded on like the the cast, so some of the characters that came in later games, they've basically been retconned into the earlier ones.
Which it's interesting.
Which is cool.
It is, yeah. It's interesting to see. And of course, Modern Warfare 2, arguably the best one of all of Call of Duty ever.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Although the no Russian level, I think, in today's world might be a bit more troublesome. But less about that. A few games, Flashback 2, just to quickly skim through them. Witchfire, a little bit more medieval take on the kind of... reminded me actually of Deathloop. It
reminded me... A lot of the games, I said to you before the show, a lot of these games, it looks like these guys like Doom.
Yeah, just take Doom and put it in a different environment.
If you are a fan of Doom, I think you'll absolutely love Witchfire by the looks of it.
Skyrim / Doom?
I don't know. I didn't really get much in terms of Skyrim vibe. I got very, very Doom. Like the way it moves, how fast it is. Yeah, there's a few more abilities and stuff.
I just meant Skyrim for the aesthetic of its fantasy world instead.
Oh no, it's like more something like Diablo or something in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of the setting. They're very like gothic fantasy rather than like Skyrim's like kind of high fantasy.
Yeah. We got more of Fort Solis, which is a new game with Troy Baker and Roger Clark, who's the mocap guy for Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. They're working together. Brand new first game from this company. Again, more space, more horror. It started to blur into one after a little while. We got an update on Outriders World Slayer with some co-op action being showcased off and how you can work together. Fall Guys content, which again we know is in coming to Stadia anytime soon. Tim Sweeney made that very clear a few weeks ago when it came to they offered it to Google and they didn't want to pay out for it. It kept going through a few more things. What I did really enjoy was the tease for Goat Simulator 3. I don't know if you saw that, Richie, but they actually used it was the trailer for Dead Island.
That was brilliant.
And it was almost watching it thinking, they're not just showing the same trailer for Dead Island that they showed like 7 years ago, are they? And they absolutely caught everyone out.
What I want to do is I want to find a YouTube video where like it has them like the two trailers side by side, like so you can like see in live terms the differences between them because it's a fantastic trailer.
Yeah, well.
And actually, did you say Goat Simulator 2?
No, 3.
Yeah, it's 3, but Goat Simulator 2 doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's popped up with 3, and everyone was going, "Oh, was there a 2? There must have been. And yeah, they're leaning into what it is, because let's face it, at the end of the day, it's a game about simulating goats, so you got to have a bit of fun with that, right?
Yeah.
You got to have a bit of fun with that. So
it is fun. It's a fun game.
It is. It's just that fun. Now, we do have some simulator games on Stadia. We've got Farming Simulator 22 is the more recent one we've got. And what do you think of this? I think this is a big one that probably would come. It strikes me as a Stadia-esque game. Not AAA.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it coming, and maybe you stick Goat Simulator 1 as a pro game.
All right, so like just a double hit.
Yeah, I could see it as a double hit.
Similar to it. Interesting.
Although I don't think I've ever got that prediction on a double hit right, but
yeah,
it still makes sense.
Yeah, still makes sense. We got another look into Marvel's Midnight Suns. They got an official kind of launch reveal trailer. 7th of October, that one is coming as well. So that's one of the titles that we kind of hope we're going to see, but as time goes on, we don't get any logos or anything for it. It's from Firaxis. This
game is screaming for getting actual gameplay reveal, because all we're seeing largely is CGI cutscenes, and it's like, okay, you've sold me on the kind of the IP of this.
Mm-hmm. I
want to see what the game is.
Yeah.
Like, how does it actually play out?
Yeah, there's loads of stuff like that. We then moved on to just some more action from games. We've got Neon White was revealed. But again, apologies for any viewers or listeners out there, but none of this had Stadia logos on it at all. There was no mention of it. The biggest one for me that I'm still kind of hoping out for is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, purely because it comes from Dotemu, who are the ones who put out they work with Way Forward and brought us the Streets of Rage. Was it Streets of Rage? Am I thinking that's right now? They've got a title on the platform already in this kind of art style. And I think we've said in the past that this game looks gorgeous. It's getting really good kind of early previews. I love a bit of Ninja Turtles action, and especially in the vein of Streets of Rage. Just with Tales. It's up to 6 player as well, Richie. which is very interesting. I'm not sure if we've got a 6-player version on Stadia right now.
No,
of anything.
Games like that tend to go up to 4 players at most.
Just need to check who Dortmund is. What's your history with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Very little. I watched bits of it as a kid, but when it's like, when something comes on as a kid, you enjoy it, but you don't really, you don't have a clue really what's going on. You're not invested in the same way as I would as an adult. But I remember enjoying stuff but I
was right. It was Streets of Rage 4 was what they did, and also Windjammers. Which funny back to Story 1. It was rated Windjammers 2 for Stadia ages ago.
Windjammers was announced before the launch of Stadia.
Damn. And it's still just waiting. It did come out a few months ago on console, if I recall. Was it the beginning of the year it came out?
Well, I remember actually, before we actually did a podcast ourselves, I was watching kind of funny Games Daily, and I think Jared Petty was still on the show at the time, who then actually went to work for Stadia, since left.
Yeah.
And he got excited by Windjammers, and that was, I think, before the reveal of Stadia.
So he left, went to work for them, has since left working for them. In the game, we still don't know. But of all things compressed down, we did see one thing to come out of Summer Games Fest with the Stadia logo on it, Richie, and that was Humankind, which is kind of a double hit story here, because we got Humankind. They announced that it was going to get a console version, so it's good to see that the game is expanding. We're going to see it on console. They gave a couple of updates relating to the game and how they're going to expand it. Of course, Humankind, build up it, kind of like Civilization, build up your human history through the ages into modern and space age times. They revealed it was coming to console, and also the Cultures of Latin America, which is out now, except for it's
Stadia.
Not on Stadia. They've updated with Cultures. Bolivar update they mentioned is there. Mississippians you can now play as. But yes, Cultures of Latin America. On top of the improvements from the other updates, they're releasing Cultures of Latin America. The pack is available now on Steam, Epic, and Microsoft Store, bringing you 6 new cultures, 2 new cultural wonders, and 4 new natural wonders to the world alongside the console release. However, yes, it's not available on Stadia. I've reached out to them on Twitter to find out where it's at, but once again, it looks like it's going to be a little bit later. But it did have a logo, so we should say there was one logo at Summer Games Fest for Google Stadia, the cloud gaming platform backed by a multi-billion-dollar corporation. At the Summer Games Fest, celebrating the industry, the games industry as a whole, you managed one logo. Well done. Well done. And that's kind of a summary, Richie, on Summer Games Fest. There's a couple of more little announcements. We won't go into them all. I think, in summary, because there was also Indie Day of the Devs, which showed off loads of smaller titles, which we've seen little bits of before. We've covered little bits of them on the show. We've discussed them. Things like Choo Choo Charles, the horror game where it's a giant spider train chasing you through an island.
I think Planet of Lana looks pretty cool.
Yeah, Planet of Lana was one of the ones that I saw and thought, that could definitely make its way across. But rather than sit here and go through all of these particular games, go check them out yourselves, guys. Go watch it. Go watch all the trailers and the breakdown. But I can't help but think, in summary, another Summer Games Fest has came and went, and Google Stadia just not showing up. And I think that leans into some of our latest stories, which you referenced about immersive streaming for games, which I just get the feeling that they're just out of this game now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a little while that I think Google need to come out and show some backing for Stadia. But I think when you hear some Google employees talk and the way they act, they see Stadia as just one use case of immersive stream for games. And it's immersive stream for games is what the product is for them now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because if you're coming around, like, they're nearly at the 3rd year. As we come around to November and Stadia turns 3, I really felt early doors we would be at this point now when I can watch an indie showcase. So not even AAA. We're not talking millions and millions being spent here. I'm talking a list of small developers, sometimes 1 or 2 individuals, who you could go to with a little checkbook and just say how couple £1,000 to port your game across. We've got great porting tools now. We've ironed out the creases in terms of getting games from Windows over to Linux and vice versa. And all these games are just like coming to Steam and Epic, coming to Steam and Epic, coming to Steam, Epic and Windows, Xbox, PlayStation. Why do I feel like we're not getting any of them and we're nearly in year 3 now? It's kind of a sad state of affairs, in all honesty. It's
a shame, but this is what the last like 2-3 years have been for Stadia. It's been like, I don't expect to see... if Stadia could announce a Stadia Connect tomorrow, and I still wouldn't expect to see any games coming to Stadia.
Within the Connect. Great news, we've got our first Connect in 2 years. No Stadia logo on it. But it's just... What I'm doing when I'm looking through this list on Eurogamer, which has all the announcements for indie titles, like they look like some cute, awesome pixel art style, fun ones. There's a game called Bear and Breakfast where you literally run a B&B as a bear. That's hilarious. But that sounds like something that it's going to be a pro game in 2 years' time rather than just coming out in July alongside everything else.
Yeah.
Switch, Steam.
I mean, we've covered logo get loads of times, but ultimately, like, having your logo there lets people know the game's coming and gets people excited for your platform.
Mm-hmm.
If your logo's not there and other platforms' logos are, then people, if you go, oh, I like the look of that game, where is it? Oh, it's not on Stadia, I'll buy it on PlayStation. So you shoot yourself in the foot by not having your logo on things. If they are coming, that's the thing, because we don't know. Like,
yeah, we really don't. But that's kind of wrapping up on Summer Games Fest. We do wish we had much more to talk about. I'd love to sit here and say all 7-8 AAA games that were shown off are coming day and date, but we're not quite there yet.
Even one guaranteed.
Yeah, just one thing for the future, but we won't rest on too much because we've got too much news to talk about. Moving on then, story number 3 of the week. We go back, funny enough, to dip into the pot of some older titles. Richie, Zorro, the Chronicles of Zorro. We've not actually discussed it that much at all because it kind of been radio silent for 11 months, and Nacon have picked up publishing rights for the game. Now, we discussed Nacon 2 weeks back regarding the Gollum game, so I think it's probably safe to assume that it might not be Gollum after all that they're porting across with these low porting tools. It might just be the long-awaited Chronicles of Zorro TV.
I agree it's probably more likely, but it depends on the timing of this, because if Nacon have only just picked it up, then any deal they had with Stadia would have predated this purchase.
I did think that, but then the pace in which things usually happen and come out, it feels like they would just pin this on low porting tools. Like, the game's been sat there ready to go for a year now, and then now it's happened.
And there's just no one...
Yeah, and the story will be, we gave them the tools in March, they're able to bring it over in June time. It's a great 2-month turnaround when really the game probably should have came out months ago.
Yeah, it just seems one that's just been stuck in limbo while the developers are looking for someone who's willing to put the money to actually publish the game.
Like, half the work was done, and for whatever reason, priorities changed, or funding changed, or teams changed. Similar to the Mafia games. I genuinely think we should have had the Mafia games like nearly a year and a half ago, but due to stuff going on at Hangar 13 and funding from Stadia, or maybe sales of Mafia 3 on the platform, and just some kind of... There's been a breakdown somewhere, and no one will take ownership and turn around and say, this is what's happened. So, yeah, who knows? But either way, Zorro Chronicles picked up publishing deals. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a pro game for next month.
Yeah, probably.
It's actually got a release date of June, so it should be out by the end of this month. So it maybe go pro at the start of July. Or...
I mean, it was announced for Stadia, and an actual announcement as well, in March 2021.
Oh, of course, it was on the blog, right?
Yeah, it's so it's just been probably sat there.
I actually totally forgot it was part of a blog post, which just shows it just highlights the state of affairs when you announce something on your official blog post and it's still not out within... If you're going to put something on a blog post, it should be out within 3 months. If you don't have a concrete date, it should be out imminent. But then again, didn't we joke about Far Cry 4 and Primal? They also had a blog post on their own. And then when we covered the story for Blood Dragon a few weeks ago, we actually realised that there was an official blog post like well over a year and a half past for Primal and 4, and they're still not out. But either way, moving on. Next story of the week. World War Z Aftermath has some positive news. The launch, of course, came out on Google Stadia a few months back now. Fantastic game. We've had a great time watching along, playing along with you fine folks out there, killing those hordes of zombies. They tweeted out this week from their official account, giving out some updates. Update number 1. A quality of life update is going to introduce cross-platform voice chat, cross-save, and various technical improvements planned for release in July. So that's not for Stadia, that's the game in general, which I hear you say, Chris, but Stadia doesn't have crossplay. Remember everyone kicking off. You yourself was not happy that crossplay was promoted, advertised by the devs and Stadia. Play with millions of players.
I'd say Chris needs to wait for point number 3 then.
Point number 3. 2, though, Horde Mode, extra large, and the next-gen launch are planned by release at the end of summer. So they're pushing for PS5, Series X and PC. And then the third point, which is the best bit, for Stadia players, we plan to deliver an update with crossplay and the cut and mend update, and we'll have more news on timing as soon as we can. So everyone, you can rejoice. World War Z, which is great. We've had a fantastic time playing with members of the community, but I know you people out there have struggled at some point to find friends and actually get on board with, because the game didn't come with crossplay. Even though it was promised and it launched, the promotional launch material, we had a good laugh about it, Richie, remember? Joined millions of players in World War Z, and everyone was going, there aren't millions of players because it's not crossplay. And the description said it was, and they since removed it. We have a little chuckle, but with all due respect, it's coming, Richie, finally coming. I think it'll be a big boon for this game because it is a really, really fun title. It just did it, as with all games that launch with multiplayer on Stadia, if they don't have crossplay, the player base is just not big enough to support that title.
Yeah, for me, I think crossplay, not just in Stadia, just needs to be an industry standard for multiplayer games now.
Yeah.
I think we are at a point now where if your multiplayer game, it doesn't have crossplay, why? Like, that, it should be the standard. Like,
it should.
Yeah.
It should. It opens the door to many, many more people, and hopefully it will be the standard. But what I do take away from this as well is Focus Entertainment, who are publishing the game. I still have my fingers crossed that we still see Plague Tale, because they're Focus Entertainment as well. We've got the sequel, Requiem, coming out later this year. We still haven't got a date. Funnily enough, it wasn't at Summer Games Fest, which was one of my predictions. I do think that means it will be a shoo-in.
It was one of my predictions.
Oh, was it your prediction? Sorry, you might have got in there before me. It's one of our predictions then. I do think that means it's an absolute dead set for the Xbox showcase instead of the Xbox.
I think that's where I think if memory serves, I think that's where I said I would expect it. But I didn't put that Xbox as part of the prediction. But I think that is where I was expecting it to be.
But Focus Entertainment,
and we haven't seen that yet, so
do it, because Luna has the original title, so it's in the cloud, albeit on Windows. So fingers crossed, it'd be a lovely pro game to get for next month, maybe any month. We'll see. Moving on to the next story of the week, Resident Evil Village has gone full on immersive streams. So as part of the kind of slew of announcements we had this week from Capcom across the PlayStation State of Play event and Summer Games Fest, starting today, you can stream a free demo of Resident Evil Village from Capcom's very own website. With no need of a fancy gaming PC, Xbox or PlayStation, the demo is similar to that's available on other platforms. The difference here is it allows players to explore parts of the village and the castle without the need of a console or logging in. This appetizer is for one of last year's biggest selling games in the form of Resident Evil Village, and it's powered by Immersive Stream for Games, which is essentially the white label version of the Stadia tech that we all know so well. Richie, it's out there. They're promoting it. It's interesting enough, as always, how all the journalists out there in the games industry pick up on the story as totally different when it's nothing directly linked to Stadia. It's like a positive thing. You can play one of the biggest games of the year now on any device through Capcom's website. That's awesome. But if this was a article, I always feel like if there's an article that was Stadia specific launching a game, it either wouldn't get the traction, or they wouldn't talk about it, or they'd criticise them closing Stadia Games and Entertainment again.
Yeah, they'll shoehorn a criticism of Stadia Games and Entertainment closure into an article that has nothing to do with it. But I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. I mean, it is the entire demo that you can play on Stadia is just there. I've literally just jumped in the game. Like while we're talking, it's like it even does like when you go in, on Stadia when you launch a game, does that zoom in on the thumbnail?
Oh yeah, like the slow pan.
It's straight up Stadia, like
which no surprise. Yeah, It's available across many countries: United States, UK, Canada, France, Italy, all of Europe, Czech Republic, Slovakia, etc.
This might be Capcom's first step. This is why I actually think This is what I was alluding to earlier when I said I think Street Fighter might come. I mean, this is the demo. If they could put a Street Fighter demo similar to this in immersive stream, this could be Capcom's first step into having their game library all in the cloud, just playable via their website, and potentially down the line an app on your phone, or on your smart TV, etc. Yeah, This is something we've talked about with immersive stream before. This might be the way like a lot of publishers do go. It's like, well, I think we focus on things like Disney and Ubisoft, but Capcom, why not?
Well, just anyone who brings money in. We know Stadia pivoted towards this kind of business structure. They're hoping to bring money in from deals such as this one, and if they bring the games alongside them, I'm all for it. We've criticised them before again for things like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. Which one was it? Arkham Knight.
I think so.
Knight, yeah. Sorry, the Engadget thing says Arkham Asylum last October, but it wasn't Asylum. Because our friend Brian Chappelle from the Nerf Report reached out to Stadia and said, congratulations on the launch of Immersive Streams. What does this mean for us still using the Stadia platform? If developers launch games on their own service through Immersive Stream games, does that mean they'll eventually come to Stadia as well? Which is kind of what we've thought ever since the AT&T deal with Batman Arkham Knight, is that if the games are launching through these independent web links, they're running on the tech already, so bring them across a la carte to Stadia. And for the first time, Richie, in what feels like an eternity, they actually replied with something that wasn't a generic message.
I know, this was weird. I was surprised when I read this, like, what? They're actually giving a straight answer here. I mean,
who gave the intern access to the Twitter account for this weekend? Because they've gone on and clearly answered something that would normally be, thanks for your interest, Brian. Please keep locked to our social media feeds for news and updates regarding the Stadia platform. Boring, generic PR. Here we are, though. And Stadia replied. And sorry, they didn't just reply. They retweeted Brian's question. Like, embedded it in, which is even bigger because then more eyes get on the question at hand. They replied saying, "Hey Brian, thanks for the question. The specific answer will always be up to our partners. Some are interested in a direct relationship with players. Some want to take advantage of the distribution opportunity they have with Stadia. And some, like Capcom, are doing both." So we've seen...
Again, another reason why I think Street Fighter might be coming.
Yeah, Capcom see the value in it. Again, it's interesting how it says some are interested in a direct relationship with players. What is kind of reading between the lines interesting again is they say a distribution opportunity they have with Stadia. They didn't say immersive stream with games, and this is where the lines are getting a bit blurred. Where in Stadia's own blog post, Google's own blog post, they said Stadia was powered by immersive stream games, and last week we laughed our heads off and saying, yes, but you're acting as though immersive stream for games came before Stadia, and it didn't.
It's interesting. I think the direct stuff is the immersive stream for games. It's what we're seeing from the Resident Evil demo. It's what we're seeing from Batman, and the Stadia distribution is, well, obviously goes without saying. What I don't understand is, if you've already put the effort into port the game to the hardware so that it can run, take Batman for example. It's there, it's on the platform. It's just gone through a immersive stream for game, and it's not a part of the Stadia library. Yeah. If you have put that effort in, unless I suppose Batman's a bad example because they're doing that as a sweeten the deal. This is why you should use AT&T as your phone carrier. Mm-hmm. But if there was just AT&T launching a game storefront, I don't know why you wouldn't put it on Stadia.
Yeah, and this is where
the hard work is already done.
Yeah, and this is where we're almost seeing the rise of demos again. PlayStation are doing. You get free demo trials in the top tier of PlayStation Plus. It's like, dude, demos used to be free when we were kids. We used to get them in like magazines and stuff to play, and then now they're like some exclusive thing only the top paid members get access to.
It's not demos going from the PlayStation blog, because I've already got that open for an episode of CloudQuest. Right. It's time-limited game trials on blockbuster titles. I'm taking this as kind of early access stuff rather than demo.
But I know
that's for PlayStation.
Microsoft this week again said they want to bring demos. Like, why can't you play a slice of a game to get a taste for it? And this is kind of that
because
embodied.
It's difficult to produce
without the console or hardware requirements. So my only lasting concern with these stories is it's great. I love the fact that I'm over the fact that it doesn't mean we're getting games. What I don't want to do is look back in a year's time and see, oh, there's Saints Row through Immersive Stream for Games. Play Saints Row as a customer for Vodafone in the UK. Oh, if you're a Verizon customer in the States, you can play Street Fighter demo. And all of these AAA titles start getting their own exclusive links, but none of them are on Stadia.
The thing is, as much of a gamer as I am, if my phone carrier was going, oh, you can take on your contract with us and you can play this game for free as part of your contract, I was like, no, I'm not interested. I just don't really... I'm just not interested in that sort of distribution method. However, something like what Capcom are doing, where you can play the demo of Resident Evil on through their website. So if you're interested in Resident Evil, you can go to Capcom's website, you can jump in, you can play the demo version of Resident Evil Village, and if you like it, then you can go buy the game wherever you want to buy it.
Yeah. But the game
that
is
I like.
there. The game is
and in
there.
the future, I think you'll get the full game in there as well.
We just need to see it.
It's an interesting thing Capcom have done there, going, you know what, we're going to port the demo first.
Indeed, agreed. You know what I would like to see, though, Richie, of all of this news from Resident Evil Village and B2 business propositions, where's ReVerse still? Because it's getting a bit longer. I'm pretty sure we're almost a year to the day since Village launched. So, soon. Hopefully soon.
I don't know.
Hopefully soon. Anyway, hopefully they'll deliver us that one day, Richie. But moving on to the next story about deliveries. Deliver Us the Mars. Deliver Us the Mars? Deliver Us the Mars is coming September 27th. It got a launch date revealed via a gameplay trailer. Not at Summer Games Fest, funny enough. It was just its own standalone thing. Reading from Gamatsu, Deliver Us Mars will launch for PlayStation 5, Series X, PS4, Xbox One, PC via Steam and Epic Games Store from Kyoken Interactive. We now have Deliver Us the Moon, of course. It was one of your delayed pro games that launched this month. I did a first look, available on the channel right now. Deliver Us the Mars is the sequel, where it looks like Earth's problems have continued, but we're heading to the Martian outpost to go through more puzzles, more crazy space adventures with our little robot in a zero-gravity environment. And this brings us back to another odd point we've had with a lot of games in 2021 and now into 2022, Richie. Sequel to a recently released game on the platform, and it's even gone pro, very similar to our Saints Row conversation. September 27th this comes out, and yet when you're not seeing a Stadia logo or announcement of any kind from the developers, the Twitter accounts, Stadia, it's coming in at a cheaper price. It's $29.99 UK pounds, $34.99, $34.99 euros. Pre-orders are available.
That's the PC.
Yeah.
That's the PC Deluxe Edition. The base version is $24.99.
It's also even cheaper. And pre-orders available now across multiple platforms. Where are we? Do we think it's... I think this is going to be another one of them really awkward misses when September comes and rolls by and we just don't see it.
I'm worried for that, but it makes me wonder because Stadia have had a conversation about at least Deliver Us the Moon with Kaioken Interactive.
Yeah, about the delay and everything else.
Well, no, it's just about bringing the game right from the start. And this game will have been in development at that point, so Stadia will have been known about Deliver Us Mars before the game was announced.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't there... And they've made the decision, we're going to bring us Deliver Us the Moon. And then... the only thing I can think of is they want to see how Deliver Us the Moon does first before they commit to the money to bring Deliver Us Mars.
Yeah.
So they've committed to Deliver Us the Moon, committed to going pro. They'll see how it does in terms of the pro revenue. Mm-hmm. And I think if it hits a probably threshold, I'd assume that if it hits a certain threshold, then the deal will be triggered.
Yeah.
And it might not have hit that point yet, which is why we're not seeing logos. Or this could be how a logo gate actually happens sometimes. Like, now the game's launched, if Stadia hadn't confirmed the deal because they're waiting to see how Deliver Us the Moon did, Deliver Us the Mars is now announced. It's got all the logos of the place that are confirmed, and Stadia isn't among it. even though it could already be coming to Stadia at this point.
Yeah.
But
And these are the creases that they should be ironing out and should have ironed out over 2.5 years of being live in the public forum. Again, we're going into the 3rd year come November. I
think it's just limited. I assume that all the guys at Stadia want to be able to just go, you know what, bring both.
Yeah.
It's probably limited budget, so they're having to be a bit more picky with how they spend that budget. And I don't necessarily think they're doing a great job.
Well,
if you're going to have one of Deliver Us Mars and Deliver Us the Moon, you're going for Deliver Us Mars, in my opinion, because it's the new title.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting one. I'm still waiting for that moment where Google have to have some kind of yearly review or financial check, or they have to speak at some point. The silence can't keep going ever onward, because you can't. Something has to give at some point, doesn't it? And I'm waiting for that day that you and me are just going to, a random Wednesday night, and we're going to open up our Discord because someone's shared a link in there, or we're going to go on Twitter, and there has to be a big change somewhere, whether that's with leadership or branding, marketing, announcement. There's something, just some kind of energy needs to happen at some point. It has to, right, Richie? You can't just go on silently plodding away for several years.
I think it's already happened. I think the Google doubling down on immersive stream for games is that's what we're looking for. That was the thing. Stadia is now viewed as a use case of immersive stream for games. Mm-hmm. So as long as it's in profit, it'll keep going. But because immersive stream for games, most of the money they're probably looking for the servers will be coming from places like Capcom, like AT&T, like whoever else they got in the works.
Yeah.
So I think the porting money for games coming to Stadia, unless it's not coming from the immersive stream as well side, will largely be mainly down to the Stadia team to generate themselves.
Well,
it's a bleak future for Stadia, if I'm right. But that's where everything that's happening seems to be pointing in the right direction.
All roads have led right now. Just like in an alternative universe, we would have had the Quarry launch this past week on the platform. Of course, Supermassive Games made an exclusive deal with the Google Stadia team way back when, announced back in maybe 2019, possibly start of 2020, as part of one of the Connect events that we love so well. They got up on stage, announced all of their partners. Splash Damage, we've seen Outcasters, a bunch of other little things. Harmonix, we're still expecting a musical game from Harmonix at some point, we think, maybe, probably not. I think that was cancelled.
I think that's done. I think so, yeah.
But the Quarry finally did come out. Of course, new publishing partner is in the form of 2K, and it's getting quite good reviews. The horror game, kind of a spiritual success to Until Dawn, featuring a stellar cast, fantastic mocap, and multiple choices. If anyone's ever played a Supermassive game before, like Man of Medan, those kind of titles. Reading from a few reviews for a world that could have been, Richie. GameSpot, 90 out of 100. Supermassive doesn't shy away from the fact that Quarry is essentially an interactive movie. The mechanics haven't evolved since Until Dawn was released 7 years ago, and that's perfectly fine. The basic system of choice and consequence is still highly effective at building suspense in lending a massive amount of weight to each decision you make. Game Informer gave it 8.5 out of 10. Destructoid, 8.5 out of 10. The Gamer, 80 out of 10. PC Gamer, 70 out of 10. Games Radar, 60 out of 10. Etc, etc. But collectively, I think this is a game probably sitting around the 8 out of 10 mark. It would have been.
As it stands, it's currently at 79 on Metacritic. This is the PC version as well. The other versions of the game don't have any review scores, so my assumption is the critics just got the PC build.
Well, they didn't get the Stadia build, Richie.
Yeah, it's mainly ranging from 7s to 9s. Like IGN give it a 70, PC Gamer give it a 70, but then you've got a
couple of 9s.
You got a couple of 9s. So even some 10. Game Grin, I haven't heard of them. Give them a 10. Well, 100 Metacritic, but it's an 8 out of 10 game, which is it's basically where I expected a good Supermassive game to land.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I don't think it'd be. I think the style of game it is would be very difficult to push into that 9 or 10 overall, because as I said, what was it? GameSpot said it is basically an interactive movie.
Yeah.
So to push into the 9-10 category, I think there's a lot of review critics might go, it's not a game, it's not gamey enough to get that high, but it seems good.
It does, and it's again, it's just another thing that could have been, like, we could have been sat here this summer and the Quarry could have been an exclusive Stadia title, arguably their best and biggest to date, if they'd have followed through on whatever it was supposed to look like originally.
I've probably said it before, but my assumption is games like this and the game whatever Harmonix was working on probably basically got released when Stadia Games and Entertainment closed.
Yeah.
So they've had to go find new publishers.
Yeah, just rip up the contract. But good boon for 2K. It's kind of another outlet that they don't really have in their wheelhouse in terms of the horror games. Great for Supermassive. I don't know how they kind of churn out these 10 games in the Dark Pictures anthology and also have time to go make a unique standalone title too.
Well, I'd argue the Dark Pictures anthology just kind of went under the radar a lot. It was kind of Until Dawn was like got a lot of attention. Dark Pictures anthology was just kind of, I think, probably overlooked. I mean, I completely forgot it was a thing for long periods of time. And then the Quarry's kind of back up there with Until Dawn in terms of like mindshare.
I'm not sure, because I think every time they release... Remember the Dark Pictures anthology is like multiple games, like Man and Medan, Little Hope, Last Hope, or whatever it was called. Like they get this boost every, 6 months when they bring out a title in that series. It keeps...
The thing is, you're naming these games, and I can't remember hearing of them.
I remember at the time,
passed me by.
I think Man and Medan or Last Hope? There was one of them that beat... what was the PlayStation... There was a PlayStation exclusive that came out, and... It wasn't even in the top 10 charts, but the Dark Pictures anthology was up at like number 2 or 3. So just to show you the difference in quality. But
yeah,
again, I'd rather just put out one quality game every few years, like most traditional ones. They're trying this different approach to kind of, to bring money in maybe or whatever, because money is ever important. But either way, the Quarry isn't out on the platform.
If you think about like the finances of it, if you bring out one game every 3 years, you have a massive spike in sales. And then it'll fall off to basically nothing for like 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. But if you bring out a smaller title every 6 months, it's a bit more stable in terms of revenue. So it's probably a bit easier from the business side to bring out smaller titles. But
yeah, House of Ashes, Little Hope, and Man of Medan are 3 of the... I'm pretty sure they said 8 originally. Yeah, which is crazy. But hey, keep doing your thing, and... maybe one day we'll see the Quarry on Stadia. But until that day, Richie, we'll move on to the next story. The Embracer Group, the massive company, of course, that we've discussed many times, is a potential suitor for Stadia to purchase if they wanted to get back into the studios game. Of course, they own many IP, just recently purchased Tomb Raider. They have sold 8.1% shares in their company to none other than Saudi Arabia Investment Group. Similar to a lot of stuff, is it the same people who own Newcastle United, Richie?
The public investment, Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, yeah.
So the football club both you and me support is now also 8% shareholders in Embracer Group, which is such a weird.
So now we need to come up with. So now we've had sports washing. Now we have game washing. Let's buy games. Let's buy into things that people love to hide the fact that we're horrible people.
It's such a weird... I mean, it's so weird. Because, again, we've said about Embracer quietly doing stuff in the background, and now they're being funded by this company by 8.1% approximately, which is weird. But again, not really much to talk about with that one. It's more... It's investment, it's money. It kind of covers that their loss. I think we said a week or two ago that Embracer actually had a loss of 1-something billion revenue because they've been out acquiring studios for so much. But now they've got Tomb Raider and essentially the backing of one of the richest... conglomerate things in the world behind the scenes.
It's a cash injection. I think it's around about 800 million. I think.
Plenty of money. But again, don't want to linger too long on it because it's just money. It's rich money going into richer companies to then come buy more ID and bring other things.
It's about 840 million pounds.
Nice. I'd take that tidy sum any day. Moving on, though.
If you're a billion down, you still need to find another 200 million, though.
I'm sure they'll find it. Somewhere. Yeah. Final few stories of the week. Just wrapping up, we've got an update from Ubisoft regarding the Prince of Time, Ubisoft's Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake. It's no longer targeting a financial 2023 release. We know we actually covered it on the show a few weeks back that they've changed developers. They've handed it over to Ubisoft Montreal from the Mumbai team. And now it just doesn't seem to have a release date, Richie. It's been pushed back out of that financial quarter. I can see this game going along the lines of Skull and Bones now, where it's been pushed out of having an actual release window, therefore they don't need to mention it at all at any conferences, so it'll just slowly exist without anyone talking about it for probably another 2 or so years. My
assumption here is Montreal have got the hands on it, realise it's nowhere near the standard, unfortunately. Like, it's going to take us a long time to get this back up. I mean, if you remember the original trailer when it was announced in 2020, I believe.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a remake. It looked like you've took the PS2 versions and remastered it.
Just up the textures.
It looked pretty bad, yeah. So there's probably more work than they were probably expecting, I'm guessing, and just went, you know what, we're not, realistically, it's not going to be 2023. Let's not even try.
Yeah, let's not even try.
Let's just put this back into the oven, and it's done when it's done.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The statement from Ubisoft is, we're proud of the work achieved by Ubisoft Pune and Mumbai, and Ubisoft Montreal will benefit from their learnings as the new team will continue to work to deliver a great remake. As a consequence, though, we are no longer targeting the FY23 release anymore, and the game has been delisted. If players wish to cancel their pre-order, they are invited to contact their retailer, and they'll be updated on the project as it's moving along. So, pre-orders gone. Yeah, January 21st, 2021 was the initial release date. If only they had some kind of sands of time, Richie, to go back.
And not, unfortunately, I feel so bad for the Mumbai and
the
team,
brand new studio giving a legacy IP. You gotta laugh. But you know what? If the game is better for the end product, then I'll take it. As someone who's not played a Sands of Time game, Prince of Persia, in a long time, I want it to be right.
Over there. Yeah, it's the developers over there who've worked really hard on this, and it's just basically the world team went, no guys, no, and then Ubisoft went, no guys, we're going to give it to someone else.
Yeah,
that phone call must have sucked.
Yeah, that conference. Like, you turn around to your team and go, yeah, we're working on a different project. It's gone. Yeah, we had one crack at it, failed. But you know what? It wasn't even confirmed for Stadia, funny enough. It was one of the rare Ubisoft titles that didn't have Stadia confirmed for it. So hopefully, the time delay will actually benefit us as Stadia players in the long run. I think more time in the oven, chances are it will actually come out. Because we just don't know, Richie. We just don't know. We just have to wait. Similar to the next story of the week, Golf with Friends announced over on Twitter this past week. They showed a little video saying, grab your shades, get your crash helmet on, bounce and zoom around an all-new bouncy castle themed course for Golf with Friends, arriving on multiple platforms June 21st, except for it's not coming to Stadia. John Scar, our good friend over at for Scar Gaming, asked the question, is this coming to Stadia too on June 21st? To which they replied, it's only available on Steam, Xbox, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Thanks for the update, John said. Do you know when it will be coming to Stadia? And I quote, at the moment, there are no plans on bringing this update to Stadia. If anything changes, we'll update you here first. And we're back to hole one, Richie, when it comes to this, that DLC for games, it just doesn't seem to be supported. Yeah. It's not a thing, which it baffles me, because I don't think this is a thing on any other platform. Like, I could never imagine buying a game on PlayStation, Switch, or Xbox, or PC, and the DLC, like, the title is there, but the DLC just doesn't come. It's a problem.
Again, there's a lot of the comments kind of saying like, "Oh, the devs are kind of anti-consumer on this one," but I kind of think this comes down again. I think this comes down to Stadia and not getting these. It's business. In the end of the day, it's like if Stadia haven't got it in the contracts that it has the DLC and it has crossplay, you can't expect the devs to just do it. Like, it's not how the world works, unfortunately. Yeah. Like, they're not going to do it just as an altruistic move. They're going to go, crossplay takes more effort, and bringing the DLC takes more effort. So they'll only bring DLC if they think either they're contractually obliged to, or they think they're going to make a return. Yeah,
it is what it is. Unlike us, Richie, who do this show for free every week, who actually get together and talk about all this and produce it, it takes us a bit of time. any game creation, it takes money, investment, people, editing, coding, everything like that, marketing. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and yeah, they need to do that. But this goes back to who's really making the power play regarding the contract negotiations, payments back and forth. But it sucks as players to purchase a game, or in fact get a game on free on Pro, and not get the subsequent DLC after the fact. It is a disappointment, because if you love that game and you've got it in Pro or you bought it outright and you're enjoying it, and then they go, oh, there's an announcement, there's new content coming. Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to jump back in. I don't have a chance. I don't have to. Otherwise, I have to buy it on another platform. It's just another avenue to push people away to elsewhere. Like, again, imagine if this was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I've said it a few times, and the Dawn of Ragnarok just didn't come to Stadia. It's not out. Also, you've dropped 80 quid on the deluxe version of Valhalla, and the next year, the biggest expansion in Assassin's Creed history, it's just not there. Like, thankfully, Ubisoft have the funds and the support structure to do that. They can make a loss on it because they're big enough. It's better for their brand image. Well, if you're a small indie studio,
Ubisoft are banking on Ubisoft Plus.
Well, yeah, that exactly. So you want it across the board. But if you're a small indie studio, and it's going to cost X amount of thousand, we've seen the 100 Days developer talk about the cost of making these games and publishing them. Yeah. If it's not feasible, they just don't have to, guys. It's not the developer's fault. It's honestly, it's either a problem with the platform or the funding.
Well, I think it's not a great look for the developer to not bring the platform because it sours it a bit. However, my take on this is ultimately it's down to Google to decide to determine what is and isn't on their platform. Mm-hmm. And if it's not contractually coming to the platform, you're not guaranteed it's coming. Yeah. So if a developer doesn't bring the DLC, it's always on Google, in my opinion, because they should have guaranteed that. You can't just assume that it'll come.
Yeah, get it locked in.
Get it locked in.
Final quick ones, just a couple of fun stories, just to as we wrap up, Richie. You've probably seen it as well across social. Our friend Brian Chappelle, again from the Nerf Report, found a little interesting fun bug with Stadia this past week, where if you get to 1,000 friends on your friends list, it slows down the UI massively, and you aren't allowed any more friends. That's the limit. So Brian's hit 1,000. And when people send him friend requests now, the option to add friend is grayed out within the interface. So you have to delete someone. You have to make that horrible, horrible decision to cull one of your friends and add someone new. It did make me laugh a little bit. I know some people were saying it was a problem. Just to remind folks who weren't aware, this happened with PlayStation. There was a couple of PlayStation podcasts I used to listen to from IGN, and a couple of the hosts.
I think the number was a lot higher though, wasn't it?
No, I think it was 1,000. I think that's like the magic number that... I'm guessing these people, the companies, just don't expect anyone to feasibly have over 1,000 friends. I think on my PlayStation account, I might have 20 odd, 50, 30 tops.
Yeah, I think it's a unique content creator problem because you'll have a community of people, so you want to have people in your community on your friends list. So if you're gaming with them, it's easier. That's why my Stadia friends list is much, much, much higher than my friends list on any other platform. For that reason. So, 1,000 friends is not weeb for content creator. It is weeb for normal people. Yeah,
if you're out there with 1,000 friends, you're either a very outgoing individual who does nothing but spends time in the virtual world, or you just add anyone and everyone. But again, it was funny that it slows the UI down. It must just be something to do with the coding that it just can't process that many requests or kind of virtual transactions in the click of a button. It takes that a little bit longer, but again, very unique scenario. It made me chuckle because I've seen it before, but it's not a Stadia specific issue. I'm sure they can probably increase the range at some point, but let's face it, Richie, when we talk about priorities,
I wouldn't expect it.
It's not a priority. It's like one of however many hundreds, thousands of players is having that problem. So sorry Brian, but looks like you're gonna have to cut some people out of your life if you want to add some new folks on there. Final few just to touch on. Dead by Daylight's having a sale across all platforms, 60% off. So if you've not got Dead by Daylight yet, if you've not claimed it, go over and get your horror fix there. And a final one from me, which I'm keen to see what it looks and plays like, Richie, is the Razer Kishi V2 or version 2. Has just been announced as well over at Razer. Not a great deal difference from the original Razer Kishi visually.
Visually, I was going to say there is big differences, I think, in terms of the specs. Mm-hmm. Where Kishi is fine at best. The triggers don't feel great. Chris has got one there. The face buttons are quite mushy. They're switching away from membrane buttons to micro switches, so you'll have that nicer feel to the buttons. They're changing the format, so for bigger phones and phones with cases on, which is probably one of the biggest criticisms. Now, the major issue is the MSRP on the Kishi V2, according to Razer's website, is $99.99, which, considering this is a controller, it's just a USB-C controller in a unique format that doesn't have things like rumble functionality. Mm-hmm. Bear in mind the DualSense, I think, is a $70 controller.
Yeah,
that's got like haptic feedback. It's got rumble support. It's got motion sensors. It's got this weird touch bar thing.
It does a lot.
The Kishi V2, it does a lot. Yeah, it does a lot. And it's a very, very good, well built controller. It's awesome. The Kishi V2 is $30 more expensive than that.
It does way less.
Yeah, honestly, if you spend $100 on that, you're an idiot. Just straight up. I think it's worth about $40.
Yeah.
Based on my experience with the Kishi V1, I'd say $40 below, maybe $50, but $50 you're starting to get into like first party controller territory.
You're getting close to like Xbox Elite controller territory with that kind of money, and you're not getting anywhere near the functionality. But
it's why I've always said, anytime anyone's asked us, whether it's in our Discord or on shows, that if you're interested, if you want to play Stadia on your phone, get yourself a Kishi. Don't buy it fresh. Head up to Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, whatever. There's loads out there. New inbox, going for a massive discount, because there's been a lot of schemes where people have just bundled them in with like new phone contracts and stuff. Then people don't want them, so pick one up second hand. Or my recommendation for this is when Kishi V2 comes out.
Wait.
Look at the prices of the V1 second hand.
Yeah.
You might get a bargain, but I would not buy this.
Yeah.
It's just stupidly priced.
It is. I agree with all those sentiments. I'm intrigued to see how it plays. I appreciate the fact that the backbone part of it, joke, is a lot more stable. It's not just like a rubber band anymore. It's got a bit more structure. The fact that it's got the screenshot and record buttons additional is great, because sometimes playing on Stadia, it's hard to figure out which button does what necessarily. The launch app for the Razer Nexus doesn't interest me. I think it's just them attempting to kind of unify it within Razer's software.
I mean, the buttons are programmable on the Kishi V2, so that's where the app will probably come into play.
Yeah, certainly. But I completely agree with your sentiments that it's a controller for almost double the price, and it lacks any functionality that a controller would do.
I actually think Razer need to get their heads out their own asses here, because people playing games on the phone, I think it's more of a casual market, and this is like top tier price for enthusiast tech.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like, it's ridiculous. You're going after the wrong people with this.
Yeah. And
if it's costing you, if this is the price you have to pay to be able to make profit on this, then what are you guys doing?
I can't imagine it costs that much to make still. But
the price is offensive. Like, again, it's $30 more than the DualSense. And it doesn't have any rumble support at all.
DualSense, revolutionary controller for the industry, changing how games and haptic feedback and everything changes things. But I'll definitely be picking one up when it's on massive discount. I got my Razer Kishi version 1 for like £29 off Facebook.
Yeah, if I can pick one up second hand for sub £40, I'll pick one up.
Yeah, I love it. It's so handy for being out and about, travelling, playing the odd game of FIFA or a side scroll platform here and there. But
it's a great concept.
Yeah,
it's a great concept, and this looks like a good upgrade. It's just that price is ridiculous.
It certainly is.
It's so highly priced. There's no way I can recommend it to people.
No. Go pick up your second hand or your unused ones on the internet if you can do, everybody. But that brings us to an end of episode 142 of your weekly Stadia show right here on Helix Cloud Games, the Sounds of Stadia podcast, wrapping up, of course, your longest, most consistent running Stadia podcast on the planet where myself and Richie round up all the Stadia and gaming news. Thank you very much to everyone who's listened, watched, viewed, tuned in for this week's show. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, do click like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content we do bring you right here. Just like our live streams that are back up and running now every Thursday, 8 PM UK time, we jump in and play a game with you, the lovely community out there. If you want to join the channel and help us a little bit more, support the guys over here at Helix Cloud Games, you can do so by clicking join below. From as little as 99p, you get early access, special stickers, extra perks and content. Richie, we're about to go away and record our next episode of CloudQuest, our weekly topical cloud gaming show where we go and discuss a little bit more off the beaten path of what the gaming world has to offer. What are we discussing this week?
We're talking about how Razer need to get their heads out their asses. No. We're talking about, is cloud gaming finally primed to explode, to become like not this weird niche thing tagged onto gaming, to become like really mainstream.
Its own thing. Yeah, there's been a few articles, moves from Microsoft and stuff this week that are kind of elevating it above just the normal gaming chatter. So we're going to go away and discuss that. Remember, if you are a member of the channel, like over 50 of you are, our Helix Heroes, you can get that episode up to 6 days early when it goes live on Sundays, instead of waiting for it to drop on free feeds on the Friday. Don't forget to jump into our Discord chat if you want to have a bit of banter back and forth with other like-minded gamers and Stadia enthusiasts and cloud gamers out there in the world. Our Discord link is in the description below. But that has been it for another week of news. My name has been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia for Helix Cloud Games. Have a great week, everyone, and remember, play wherever and whatever makes you the happiest. Have a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.